In the vast Brazilian sky, a routine flight turned into a tragic chapter. Join us as we uncover the events of Gol Transport's Aéreos Flight 1907 on September 29, 2006, a story that goes beyond the ordinary, leaving an indelible mark on aviation history. This is the poignant narrative of a journey that took an unexpected turn, forever altering the lives of those on board. Welcome to the unfolding of Gol Flight 1907, a story of skies and sorrow. In the serene embrace of Eduardo Gomes International Airport, the Boeing 737-800 registration PR-GTD stood as a testament to modern aviation prowess. Its twin turbofans hummed with the promise of a routine journey, yet destiny had woven a narrative that would transcend the ordinary. A mere 3 weeks prior, on August 22, 2006, this marvel of engineering had taken its maiden flight, a graceful ascent that foreshadowed the calamity to come. Delivered to Gol Transportes Aéreos on September 12, 2006, it became part of the airline's fleet, a symbol of progress soaring through the South American skies. On board this airborne vessel, 6 crew members and 148 passengers were united in their journey. Among them, the Brazilian spirit thrived, with 6 crew members and 105 passengers hailing from this vibrant nation. The remaining passengers, a mosaic of nationalities, added a diverse touch to the midday flight. The cockpit, a realm of expertise and command, housed the seasoned Captain Decio Chavez Jr., a stalwart of the skies at 44. Alongside him, First Officer Tiago Jordão Crusoe, 29, brought youthful vigor to the flight deck. Their crew, consisting of 4 flight attendants, formed a united front dedicated to ensuring the safety and comfort of those in their care. Captain Chavez, a Boeing 737 flight instructor for Gol, boasted an impressive 15,498 total flight hours, with the majority spent mastering the intricacies of Boeing 737 aircraft, 13,521 hours to be precise. First Officer Crusoe, a relative newcomer with 3,981 total flight hours, had honed his skills with 3,081 hours specifically on Boeing 737s. As the clock struck 15:35 Brazilian Standard Time on September 29, 2006, Gol Flight 1907 embarked on its journey into the vast Brazilian sky. The destination, Rio de Janeiro Galeão International Airport, with a planned pause at Brasilia International Airport. In the expansive canvas of the Brazilian skies, a second player entered the stage, a twin-turbofan Embraer Legacy 600 business jet, serial number 965, bearing the registration N600XL. This freshly minted aircraft, a creation of Embraer, found itself on a delivery journey from São José dos Campos, Professor Urbano Ernesto Stumpf Airport, to its new home in the United States, purchased by XL Air Service Inc. of Ronkonkoma, New York. The Legacy 600, a marvel of aeronautical engineering, departed São Paulo at 14:51 BRT, 17:51 UTC, embarking on its transcontinental journey. The flight plan included a planned pit stop at Eduardo Gomes International Airport in Manaus, a waypoint on its way to becoming a part of the U.S. aviation landscape. Guiding this sleek business jet through the boundless skies were Captain Joseph Lepore, 42, and First Officer Jan Paul Palladino, 34, both citizens of the United States. With more than 2 decades of experience, Captain Lepore had logged 9,388 total flight hours, including a mere 5.5 hours in the Legacy 600. Beside him, First Officer Palladino brought a decade of commercial flying expertise, accumulating over 6,400 flight hours, including 3.5 hours specifically in the Legacy 600. Palladino's flight history extended beyond the Legacy, having captained Embraer ERJ-1145 and ERJ-135 jet aircraft for American Eagle Airlines. 2 of the 5 passengers on this transcontinental journey were Embraer employees, adding a touch of familiarity to the cabin. The remaining 3 passengers were XL Air executives and among them sat Joe Sharkey, the New York Times business travel columnist. On this particular flight, Sharkey was on a special assignment, compiling a report for Business Jet Traveler, an assignment that would thrust him into the heart of an unprecedented aviation event. As the Legacy 600 soared through the skies, blissfully unaware of the intersecting fate awaiting it, the narrative unfolded, a delicate dance between two aircraft, each carrying its cargo of lives, dreams, and stories yet to be told. As the hands of time pressed forward, the sun began its descent over the Brazilian landscape, casting an amber hue over the wings of the Boeing 737 and the Embraer Legacy 600. Unbeknownst to the crews aboard, fate was orchestrating a tragic ballet at 37,000 feet, an altitude where dreams usually soared. At precisely 16:56:54, BRT 19:56:54 UTC, the two aircraft on intersecting trajectories met in the vast expanse of the Brazilian sky. The collision, an almost head-on impact, unfolded with a force that echoed through the aluminum frames of both the Boeing and the Embraer Legacy. Midway between Brasilia and Manaus, near the quiet town of Matupá, the dance of these aerial giants turned into a catastrophic symphony of metal meeting metal. The left winglet of the Embraer, like a colossal scissor in the heavens, sheared off about half of the Boeing 737's left wing. The 737's left engine, however, remained untouched, still attached to the remaining wing part, an ironic twist in the merciless ballet. The repercussions were immediate and severe. The Boeing 737, now crippled and imbalanced, nosedived into an uncontrollable spin, a rapid descent that marked the beginning of an airborne tragedy. The forces at play were too formidable, and the aircraft began to disintegrate in mid-air, a once majestic structure now succumbing to the forces of gravity. As the descent into chaos accelerated, the Cockpit Voice Recorder, CVR, documented the final moments of communication between the crew members. At 16:57:46, less than a minute after the fatal collision, the CVR fell silent, a poignant timestamp marking the end of voices, decisions, and the routine chatter that had filled the cockpit just moments before. In the heart of the Brazilian sky, the narrative of Gol Transportes Aéreos Flight 1907 had taken a tragic turn. The debris of shattered dreams and fragmented metal would soon become part of the Amazon rainforest, a silent witness to the dance of destiny that played out at 37,000 feet. The shattered remnants of Gol Transportes Aéreos Flight 1907 rained down upon the dense Amazon rainforest, creating a haunting mosaic of wreckage. The Boeing 737, a symbol of routine air travel, met its demise approximately 200 kilometers east of the municipality of Peixoto de Azevedo. A once airborne vessel, now reduced to fragments, bore the weight of tragedy, and in its descent claimed the lives of all 154 passengers and crew. The lush rainforest, untouched by human sorrow until that moment, cradled the wreckage as a silent testament to the fragility of flight. In stark contrast, the Embraer Legacy 600, though marred by the collision, defied the odds and continued its journey through the Brazilian sky. Despite serious damage to the left horizontal stabilizer and left winglet, the resilient jet pressed on. The autopilot, however, had disengaged, and maintaining control required an unusual exertion of force on the yoke to keep the wings level, a testament to the skill and determination of the crew amidst the chaos. As the Legacy 600 navigated the turbulent skies, a glimmer of hope emerged in the form of radio relay assistance from Polar Air Cargo, Flight 71, a Boeing 747 cargo aircraft that happened to be in the vicinity. Guided by the reassuring voices from above, the Embraer's crew, facing an unprecedented challenge, skillfully piloted the damaged jet towards safety. The culmination of this airborne drama unfolded at Cachimbo Airport, nestled within the sprawling military complex Campo de Provas, Brigadeiro Veloso, approximately 160 kilometers from the collision point. Against the odds, the Embraer touched down on the runway, bringing an end to the harrowing chapter of Flight 1907's mid-air ordeal. Among the survivors, Joe Sharkey, a passenger and journalist, would later recount his surreal experience in an article for the New York Times, titled "Colliding with Death at 37,000 Feet and Living," filed on October 1, 2006. In the midst of camaraderie with the pilots and the serenity of cruising at 37,000 feet, Sharkey's narrative became a chilling testimony to the fragility of life as, minutes later, the violent strike altered the course of their journey, leaving the Embraer Legacy 600 scarred and altered in midair. In the aftermath of the dramatic emergency landing at Cachimbo Air Base, the Embraer crew found themselves thrust into a legal maelstrom. Brazilian Air Force and Agência Nacional de Aviação Civil officials wasted no time in detaining and subjecting the flight crew to thorough interviews, seeking to unravel the intricate details of the mid-air collision. The critical pieces of evidence, the black boxes, comprising the cockpit voice recorder and the flight data recorder, were carefully extracted from the Embraer Legacy 600. These vital components were dispatched to São José dos Campos, São Paulo, and eventually to Ottawa, Canada, where the Transportation Safety Board laboratories would meticulously analyze their contents, aiming to shed light on the sequence of events that led to the tragic collision. In their initial deposition, the Embraer crew maintained that they had been authorized by Brasilia Air Traffic Control, ATC, to fly at level 370, precisely at 37,000 feet above mean sea level, and were adhering to this assigned altitude when the collision transpired. They asserted that communication with Brasilia ATC was lost at the moment of impact, and their anti-collision system failed to alert them to the approaching traffic, an assertion that would become a focal point in the ensuing investigation. The legal complexities intensified on October 2, 2006, when the captain and first officer of the Embraer Legacy were ordered by the Mato Grosso Justice Tribunal to surrender their passports. This decision, prompted by the prosecutor from Peixoto de Azevedo, was endorsed by Judge Tiago Sousa Nogueira e Abreu. The judge emphasized the possibility of pilot error, and the crew found themselves compelled to remain in Brazil until their passports were released on December 5, 2006, over 2 months after the accident. Federal Judge Candido Ribeiro concluded that no legal grounds existed for further restrictions on the freedom of the foreign crew members. Before their anticipated departure to the United States, the Embraer crew faced another legal hurdle. Brazilian federal police formally charged them with endangering an aircraft, a charge carrying a potential penalty of up to 12 years in prison. The focus of inquiry centered on why the transponder, a critical aircraft identification device, had not been activated. To secure their release, the crew signed a document committing to return to Brazil for trials or as required by Brazilian authorities. Retrieving their passports, the crew finally departed, leaving behind a tumultuous chapter in Brazilian legal history, with the promise to face the consequences of the tragedy on their return. Amidst the legal proceedings, a wave of sorrow and empathy gripped Brazil as authorities initiated an extensive search and rescue operation for the victims of Gulf Flight 1907. The Brazilian Air Force dispatched 5 fixed-wing aircraft and 3 helicopters to the region, mobilizing as many as 200 personnel for the challenging mission. Among them were members of the Kayapo people, well versed in the intricacies of the dense rainforest. The crash site, a somber tableau 200 kilometers east of Peixoto de Azevedo, near Fazenda Jarina, a cattle ranch, was first identified on September 30th. However, reaching the wreckage proved arduous for rescue personnel due to the relentless grip of the dense forest. Initial reports from Infraero hinted at the possibility of survivors, but subsequent statements from the Brazilian Air Force, grounded in data gathered by personnel who rappelled to the crash site and local police aiding in the SAR effort, confirmed the tragic reality: no survivors. In response, Brazilian President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva declared 3 days of national mourning, acknowledging the profound impact of the aviation disaster on the collective consciousness. The relentless search for answers extended to the recovery of crucial flight data. In a poignant moment, a red palm-sized cylindrical metal container labeled Enregistreur de vol ne pas ouvrir lay in a shallow, freshly dug hole, a silent witness to the unfolding tragedy. The Boeing 737's cockpit voice recorder memory module, elusive for weeks, was discovered embedded in the soil after a thorough and exhaustive search. The process of recovery and analysis continued. On October 2, 2006, the flight data recorder and a non-data part of the cockpit voice recorder from the Boeing 737 were located and handed over to investigators. These critical components were then dispatched to the Transportation Safety Board laboratories in Canada for meticulous analysis. Nearly 4 weeks later, on October 25th, the memory module of the cockpit voice recorder was unearthed. Remarkably intact and separated from other wreckage pieces, it was sent for further analysis by the TSB. Simultaneously, on October 4th, recovery crews commenced the solemn task of moving the victims' bodies to a temporary base established at the Jarino Ranch. The FAB deployed a C-115 Buffalo aircraft to transport the recovered remains to Brasilia for identification. In the heart of the unforgiving jungle, recovery teams toiled tirelessly for almost 7 weeks, navigating the challenging terrain to search for and identify the victims' remains. The somber process, guided by the precision of DNA testing, concluded on November 22, 2006, as all the victims of Gulf Flight 1907 were recovered and identified. The dense rainforest, a silent witness to the unfolding tragedy, now bore the scars of loss and the collective grief of a nation. The investigation into the tragic collision that unfolded over the Brazilian skies involved a collaborative effort between the Brazilian Air Force's Aeronautical Accidents Investigation and Prevention Center and the U.S. National Transportation Safety Board. Following the protocol outlined in ICAO Annex 13, the NTSB played a pivotal role as the representative for the state of manufacture of the Boeing, the state of registry and operator of the Embraer, and the state of manufacture of the Honeywell avionics equipment installed in both aircraft. With the acquisition of the black boxes and communication transcripts, investigators delved into the intricate details of the incident. The flight crews of the Legacy jet and the air traffic controllers became central figures in the quest to reconstruct the sequence of events that led 2 advanced jet aircraft, equipped with state-of-the-art anti-collision technology, to collide while under positive control airspace during instrument flights. Examining the Embraer's flight plan provided critical insights. The planned route involved flying at flight level 370 to Brasilia on airway UW2, followed by a descent at Brasilia to FL 360. The aircraft was then slated to proceed northwest bound along airway UZ6 to the Terres Fix, where a climb to FL 380 was intended. As per the filed flight plan, the Embraer was scheduled to be level at FL 3080, en route to Manaus, while passing the eventual collision point located approximately 307 kilometers northwest of Terres. The crew of the Embraer insisted in their depositions and subsequent interviews that they had been cleared by air traffic control to FL 370 for the entire journey to Manaus. The actual transcript of the clearance provided to the Embraer's crew before takeoff at São José dos Campos at 14:41:57 confirmed this: November 6, 00, X-Ray Lima, ATC clearance to Eduardo Gomes, flight level 370, direct Poços de Caldas, squawk transponder code 4574, after takeoff perform Oran departure. The Embraer's crew further reiterated their altitude clearance to FL 370 during a radio exchange with ATC in Brasilia at 15:51, which marked their last 2-way communication before the collision. N600XL, Brasilia, November 600, X-Ray Lima, level. Flight level 370, good afternoon. ATC, November 600, X-Ray Lima, squawky dent, radar surveillance. N600XL, Roger. With these critical pieces of information, investigators embarked on the challenging task of unraveling the intricate web of circumstances that culminated in the mid-air collision, seeking answers that would bring clarity to the tragedy. the Embraer Legacy 600 embarked on its ill-fated journey from São José dos Campos at 1451, soaring into the Brazilian skies and steadily ascending to flight level 370 by 1533, 42 minutes into the flight. Maintaining this altitude, it continued its trajectory until the catastrophic collision. Air traffic control engaged in routine two-way radio communication with the Embraer until 1551, marking the last successful radio exchange on VHF frequency 125.05 MHz with Brasilia Center. At this juncture, the Embraer was in the vicinity of the Brasilia Voador. The aircraft overflew the Brasilia Voador at 1555, proceeding northwest bound along Airway UZ6. However, at 1602, 7 minutes after crossing the Brasilia Voador, secondary radar contact with the Embraer was lost. This cessation halted the display of the aircraft's reported altitude, Mode C, on the controller's radar screen. Curiously, no attempts were made by either the Embraer or Brasilia Center to establish contact from 1551 until 1626. It was only at 1626, a full 24 minutes after the loss of secondary radar contact, that Brasilia Center initiated communication with the Embraer, receiving no reply. Subsequent attempts to reach the Embraer unfolded in a series of unsuccessful calls from Brasilia Center between 1630 and 1634. By 1630, the Embraer's primary radar target became intermittent, ultimately disappearing entirely from the radar screen by 1638. In a final effort, Brasilia Center endeavored to effect a handoff of the Embraer to Amazonic Center at 1653 by calling the aircraft in the blind, a fruitless endeavor that encapsulated the growing realization of an impending tragedy. In the tense minutes leading up to the collision, the Embraer initiated a flurry of unsuccessful attempts to reach Brasilia Center. Starting at 1648, the aircraft persistently made 12 futile calls until 1653. Although limited contact was established at this point, the Embraer faced a new challenge, unsuccessfully copying the frequencies provided by Amazonic Center. Undeterred, the Embraer continued its efforts, making 7 more attempts to contact Brasilia Center in the brief moments preceding the collision. The collision, shrouded in the vastness of the Brazilian sky, occurred abruptly at 1656:54, BRT at flight level 370. Strikingly, neither traffic collision avoidance system activated nor alerted its respective crew to the impending danger. The crews, engrossed in their separate domains, failed to visually detect the oncoming traffic or initiate any evasive actions prior to the tragic convergence. Despite the presence of TCS on both aircraft, the Embraer's transponder had ceased operating at 16:02, almost an hour before the collision, rendering the automatic detection feature ineffective. Approximately 3 minutes after the collision, at 16:59:50, Amazonic Center finally received the Embraer's secondary radar reply, complete with its correct altitude and last assigned code. However, attempts to establish radio contact at 17:30 proved futile. In the aftermath of the collision, the Embraer resorted to the emergency frequency, 121.5 MHz, immediately seeking assistance. Unfortunately, the emergency transceivers in the area were non-operational, impeding the crew's efforts to reach air traffic control on that frequency. Amidst the chaos, at 17:01:06, the Embraer found a lifeline. Contact was established on the emergency frequency with a Boeing 747 cargo aircraft, Polar 71, which swiftly became a crucial link between the crippled Embraer and ATC. Polar 71 attempted to relay the Embraer's urgent request for an emergency landing, providing indispensable relay and translation assistance until the very end. At 17:18:03, the Embraer, now navigating the tumultuous aftermath of the collision, directly contacted the control tower at Cachimbo Airport. The crew, showing remarkable composure in the face of adversity, successfully coordinated their emergency landing, bringing the damaged aircraft down safely at Cachimbo at 17:23 Zai. This critical sequence of events marked the culmination of the harrowing journey. from a mid-air collision to the courageous emergency landing in the heart of the Brazilian rainforest. GOL 1907 commenced its journey from Manaus at 15:35, tracing a southeast-bound trajectory along Airway UZ6. The aircraft ascended steadily, reaching flight level, FL 370 by 15:58, 23 minutes into the flight. Sustaining this altitude, it continued on its course until the fateful collision. Throughout this phase of the flight, there were no reported issues with radio or radar contact. GOL 1907 operated smoothly within the controlled airspace, maintaining its trajectory without any apparent anomalies. However, the narrative takes a pivotal turn with the impending handoff to Brasilia Center. As the aircraft transitioned to the purview of Brasilia Center, no known attempts were made by Air Traffic Control, ATC, to alert Flight 1907 of the conflicting traffic, another crucial factor that contributed to the tragic sequence of events. In the absence of crucial warnings, the crew of GOL 1907 continued their journey unaware of the impending collision that loomed in the airspace they shared with the Embraer Legacy 600. On 2 May 2007, the National Transportation Safety Board issued a critical safety recommendation document, shedding light on the investigation and offering immediate safety suggestions for the Federal Aviation Administration to bolster flight safety. The NTSB's interim summary disclosed pivotal findings related to the Embraer Legacy 600's traffic collision avoidance system outage, a crucial element unbeknownst to its crew before the collision. According to the cockpit voice recorder data, preliminary investigation results indicated that, for reasons yet to be determined, the Legacy airplane's collision avoidance system was not operational at the time of the accident. This rendered the system incapable of detecting and being detected by conflicting traffic. The CVR data further revealed that the flight crew remained unaware of this malfunction until after the collision occurred. The NTSB underscored a critical aspect of the Embraer's avionics design. The non-functional TCS was conveyed through a small static white text message, potentially easily overlooked by the flight crew if their attention was focused elsewhere in the flight environment. Recognizing the limitations of using static text messages as visual warnings, the NTSB emphasized the need for design changes to enhance the noticeability of TCAS announcements. In light of these observations, the NTSB recommended that the FAA take proactive steps. First, it urged the implementation of design changes to make TCAS announcements more conspicuous and attention-grabbing. Additionally, the NTSB advised the FAA to instruct pilots of all aircraft types to familiarize themselves with the details of this specific accident, understand the inadvertent causes of transponder and/or TCS function loss, and recognize signs of a system malfunction. These recommendations were crucial steps to improve aviation safety and prevent future incidents with similar circumstances. The collaboration between the Centro de Investigação e Prevenção de Acidentes Aeronáuticos and the National Transportation Safety Board in the comprehensive investigation of the accident yielded a shared foundation of basic facts and findings. However, the two organizations diverged in their interpretations and conclusions, leading to conflicting perspectives. In its report, CENIPA attributed the accident to mistakes made by both air traffic control and the pilots of XLR, emphasizing shared responsibility. On the other hand, the NTSB report took a different stance, directing attention towards the controllers and the overall ATC system. The NTSB's conclusion asserted that both flight crews, including those of XLR and GOL Airlines, acted appropriately. The key contention was that they were unwittingly placed on a collision course due to the actions of the ATC. Aviation Week reported a strong disagreement between the NTSB and the Brazilian conclusions regarding the Legacy pilot's actions as a causal factor. The NTSB explicitly stated, "The crew flew the route precisely as cleared and complied with all ATC instructions," a sentiment echoed for the GOL Airlines crew. Notably, Aviation Week highlighted the role of the Brazilian military in operating the country's air traffic control system, conducting the investigation, and authoring the report. This disagreement underscored the complexity of attributing blame in such a tragic incident, bringing to light the nuanced perspectives and interpretations of the involved parties. The crash of Flight 1907 triggered a significant crisis in Brazil's civil aviation system, resulting in extensive flight delays, cancellations, air traffic control work-to-rule slowdowns, and strikes. Public safety concerns were raised regarding the state of Brazil's airport and air traffic infrastructure. Despite the transition to civilian governance in 1985, Brazil's airways, controlled by the Brazilian Air Force through the Department of Airspace Control, continue to be operated by military non-commissioned officers. As details of the Flight 1907 crash emerged in October 2006, the investigation appeared to focus on potential ATC errors, sparking resentment among controllers. This exacerbated existing labor issues, including complaints of being overworked, underpaid, and forced to operate with outdated equipment. Language barriers, with many controllers having limited English proficiency, were identified as a factor in the crash. The military's exclusive control over aviation faced criticism for its lack of public accountability. Tensions escalated, leading air traffic controllers to stage work actions such as slowdowns, walkouts, and a hunger strike. The resulting chaos included major disruptions, delays, and cancellations in domestic and international air service, leaving passengers stranded and prompting public demonstrations. Blame was directed at civilian and military officials, with calls for resignations. On 26 July 2007, following another deadly crash, TAM Airlines Flight 3054, on 17 July, President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva dismissed Defense Minister Waldir Pires, who had overseen aviation infrastructure and safety since March 2006. Pires faced widespread criticism for failures. On the same day, Lula appointed Nelson Jobim, the former Supreme Court president, as Pires's successor, pledging to enhance Brazil's ATC system. On 6 November 2006, families of 10 crash victims initiated a negligence lawsuit against Excel Air and Honeywell, alleging the Excel Air pilots flew at an incorrect altitude and the Honeywell transponder was non-functional during the collision. Similar suits were subsequently filed on behalf of other victims, targeting Excel Air, Honeywell, the 2 Embraer pilots, Raytheon, Lockheed Martin, AmazonTech, and ACSS. Attorney Robert Torricella, representing the Embraer crew, argued that ATC clearances supersede filed flight plans, and the Embraer adhered to its cleared flight plan. Honeywell maintained that there was no evidence indicating a malfunction in its transponder. On 2 July 2008, U.S. District Court Judge Brian Cogan dismissed the suits against U.S.-based defendants, citing forum nonconveniens. While not ruling on the merits, Cogan recommended the Brazilian court system as a more appropriate jurisdiction. On 1 June 2007, Brazilian federal judge Murilo Mendes indicted the 2 Embraer pilots and 4 Brasilia-based air traffic controllers for exposing an aircraft to danger. On 8 December 2008, he dismissed negligence charges against the pilots but maintained a charge of imprudence. 2 controllers were acquitted, and charges against the others were reduced. On 12 January 2010, Judge Candido Ribeiro overturned Mendes' ruling, reinstating negligence charges against the pilots. On 26 October 2010, Sergeant João Marcelo Fernandes dos Santos, an air traffic controller, was convicted for not acting when the Embraer's anti-collision system was turned off, receiving a 14-month jail sentence. 4 other controllers were acquitted. On 17 May 2011, air traffic controller Lucivando Tiburcio de Alencar was sentenced to a term of up to 3 years and 4 months, eligible for community service, while Santos was acquitted of harming air transport safety. On 16 May 2011, Mendes sentenced the pilots to 4 years and 4 months in a semi-open facility, but commuted the sentences to community service in the United States. In October 2012, federal prosecutors successfully appealed, seeking a 17-month increase, totaling 5 years and 9 months. The court upheld the convictions on 15 October, modifying the sentences to 37 months each, requiring reporting to authorities and nighttime home confinement. In October 2015, Brazil's Supreme Court rejected the pilots' appeal, ordering their return to serve their sentences. The Embraer jet underwent temporary repairs at Cachimbo Airport and, on 19 November 2010, was flown to Cleveland Hopkins International Airport. Subsequently, in 2010, the aircraft was sold to Cloudscape Inc. and re-registered as N965LL. Following another change of ownership in 2013 to Flymex and subsequent registration updates, the aircraft is currently in operation under the registration XA Fly. In the poignant conclusion of this video, we reflect on the tragic incident involving Gol Transportes Aéreos Flight 1907 and the Embraer Legacy 600, a calamity that not only claimed hundreds of lives, but also ignited a wave of risk and controversy within Brazil's civil aviation system. The convergence of various factors, from communication breakdowns to deficiencies in air traffic control and decisions made in the heat of the moment, has led to a nuanced discourse about accountability. The aftermath of the accident served as a stark warning, triggering a crisis within Brazil's aviation system and presenting substantial challenges in safety and air traffic management. The lessons drawn from this incident contributed to changes in safety standards and procedures, prompting a re-evaluation of the management and sustainability of the national aviation system. With every tragedy, there is hope that the painful experiences will serve to enhance aviation safety and prevent similar disasters in the future.